The Thompson Submachine Gun, Tommy gun to you and me, is a most deadly weapon when you know how to use it. It's a short-range weapon and very effective up to 50 yards.
Hi guys, welcome to another instalment of our series taking a look at some of the primary source material that we've gathered for the TAB reference collection. Today we're taking a look at the small arms training pamphlet for the Thompson machine carbine. This pamphlet, volume number 1, number 21, dates from July 1942 and supersedes the original printed in 1940. In turn, this pamphlet is later superseded by one that covers both the Sten and Thompson machine carbines, which is British parlance for submachine guns. The pamphlet's pretty short at just 12 pages long. On the first page we have a distribution list, so it's scale D for the first two, and then 4, and then it's 140 to the Hythe wing, and then 50 to the Netheravon wing of the small arms school corps. So we have general notes, and then 3 lessons, and then an appendix. Got a really nice little illustration of the Thompson on the first page. The object of the pamphlet is to teach all ranks the most efficient way of handling their weapons in order to kill the enemy, and instructors were to keep this in mind when teaching. Excellent training value can also be obtained by using the spotlight projector, and we'll come to that really interesting piece of kit a little bit later. Here the pamphlet explains that the machine carbine is normally the weapon of the section commander. Occasions will arise, however, when it may be advisable to give it to another man in the section. This of course evolved as the war progressed and varied unit to unit. We have a nice little diagram of an M1928A1 Thompson with the horizontal foregrip. It notes just the approximate weight and calibre of the gun, which is written as .450 inch, again that's British parlance for 45 ACP, just as 30-06 was known as .300 in British service. It's also interesting to note that it says carbines with the vertical foregrips have the front sling swivel on the left, an indication to some of the variation of the Thompsons in British service at that point. On the next page we begin lesson 1, with an introduction followed by loading and unloading and the basic handling of the Thompson. It explains the purpose of the machine carbine. It's for engaging at short ranges from 10 yards up to 100 yards. Interestingly here it notes, at greater distances the speed of the bullet is so reduced that it has lost much of its penetrative power. As always, it's very important to know the capabilities of your weapons. It notes that it is especially useful on patrol or for fighting in close country, such as woods and villages. It is ideal for use at night at very close ranges. If necessary, it may be fired on the move during the assault, which of course is exactly what Colonel Thompson designed his gun for. And then there's a little note about point shooting from the hip, but as this is the British Army, it's always encouraged that you should fire aimed shots from the shoulder. Figure 2 shows the components of the Thompson. So we have the main barrel and receiver, the pistol grip assembly, the bolt and the Blishlock H piece, the buffer, the mainspring, and the cocking handle which goes into the bolt along the top. And we also have the detachable butt as well. And then we have a little description of what a blowback action is, although it doesn't actually mention the term blowback. And then there's an explanation of how to load the 20-round magazines. Noteworthy that by summer 1942, the British Army had long abandoned the classic Thompson drum magazines. They were just too cumbersome and noisy for use in the field. Then we get into the practicalities of loading the weapon. It's very interesting to see a note stating, the safety catch should never be used, it being necessary to cock the weapon to be ready for firing, emphasising the weapon being ready for immediate action or carried with the bolt forward. Not the safest of drills. Whether this was a practice in reality, I don't know. It may well have been only intended for when in contact or contact was expected. Lesson 2 is on holding and firing. It notes for this lesson that the soldiers being trained should be in battle order, as seen in the illustration on page 5, and they should have the weapon loaded with a magazine holding in-air drill rounds to mimic the loaded weight of the weapon. It notes, there's no shock of recoil, but the muzzle does climb when firing bursts. The pamphlet notes that individuals have to find their own comfortable method of holding and firing, either from the hip or shoulder. Firing from the waist or shoulder, the soldier should have their left foot forward, placing their weight on it with their knee slightly bent. Figure 3 shows a soldier with the Thompson at the hip firing position, and Figure 4 shows the shoulder firing position. Interestingly, both depict a Thompson with the classic vertical foregrip. The firing section notes that firing single shots on automatic is possible with practice, and in theory the weapon could be kept solely set to automatic, which I suppose means that the manual is telling troops to leave the weapon on automatic and never put the safety on. It goes on to say that bursts should be reserved for extreme emergencies, and even then kept to just a couple of rounds. In the next section on immediate action drills, the first paragraph suggests, when the magazine becomes empty, the machine carbine will stop, with the cocking handle to the rear. And the remedy to this is to change the magazine and continue firing. And then we have some standard immediate action drills for clearing stoppages. Lesson 3 is on stripping and cleaning the weapon, explaining how to remove the buttstock and take the pistol grip assembly off, and then if necessary, break down the bolt into its component parts. The diagram shows a small tool which can be inserted to hold the cocking handle back. This enables the soldier to just quickly clean the weapon once the buttstock and pistol grip assembly have been removed. We then have a brief mention of how the weapon should be decontaminated if it's subjected to poison gas, and for tips on how to do that you can refer to pamphlet number 3. Lastly, we have an appendix with the spotlight projector. This was the training aid mentioned at the beginning of the pamphlet. It could be used with the Thompson, Sten, rifle and brain gun. It was attached near the front of the gun and a wire was run back to the trigger. When the trigger was pulled, the projector light came on. This was useful for teaching the fundamentals and snap shooting with the weapon, while also saving ammunition. And it could also be used to teach giving lead to moving targets, which is especially important with a compact automatic weapon like the Thompson, that was probably going to be used against fleeting targets in close quarter situations. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll have more videos looking at some of these old small arms training manuals in the future. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and if you'd like to support the channel you can do so via Patreon. Thanks again for watching, see you next time.